Good morning, everybody. Today is February 2nd. This is class 4 of CAD 212 for the spring 2022 semester. Today in class, we're going to be going over more wall information and how to continue working on your floor plan. We're going to review the stuff real quickly that we talked about Monday about our walls, just to make sure everybody understands that. We're also going to talk about creating materials, which is kind of a big thing. You will be creating materials throughout this entire project, first project and your final project in the second half of the semester. Creating materials is a way that we can really, make this more of a personal project and especially bring out your design skills on here. So creating materials is a big deal. We'll also talk about door and window placement, how we import doors and windows in our project, and we'll go from there. After that, the rest of the week, you'll just work on your floor plan, and hopefully you'll get that finished for Monday. If you don't get that finished, just turn in your progress anyway. I'm going to have the mod live, and I'd like to just see everybody's progress on here. Usually, and the reason I do this is that, when we're in class live, I can go around and see your work, and we can talk live about how you're coming along if you're having any issues. And obviously, we're missing that in this type of teaching environment. So I like you to turn in your work progress. You get a grade on whether or not you turn it in or not. It doesn't affect your final grade. It's just so I can see that on there. So there's no grade progress. It's just really strictly just for me to help you out, for me to help you catch any issues that you're having before they get too far down the road. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. So I try and kind of catch any issues now. So it's up to you if you want to turn it in, but it's highly recommended just so I can check your progress. But it won't count against your grade, and it won't count towards your grade. It's just a way for me to check your work and to see how you're doing. So highly recommended that you do that. Okay, so that being said, any questions from Monday's class before we jump into new stuff today? One thing I did want to address before we get started in the class stuff is that a couple of people have reached out to me and said that they're having issues with Revit. I've reached out to Miss A and to see if there's any way that we can get access to, it actually would be the Louisa Street campus where all the CAD lab is. I don't believe they have CAD on any of the other labs, but I'm checking into that to see if you can have get access to that on campus. And I should I'll shoot everybody an email on that when I get the answer this week. But I am looking into that for you. I know a couple of people are having issues with that, and it's not typical to have issues downloading from Autodesk. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. But I will shoot you an email later this week. And I would also recommend reaching out to Miss A directly and see if she has any recommendations as well. So I know she's very busy at the beginning of the semester. So best thing is just to kind of reach out to her directly as well and do your due diligence to see if you can track that down. But I'm trying to see what I can do for y'all as well as far as getting that taken care of. Really odd that you're having trouble downloading that from Autodesk. All right, so I'll get back to you on that later this week or as soon as I hear back from people I've reached out to. And then also, okay, so that's about it for announcements. Let's jump into class. So let me open up Revit, that would help.
Is Michelle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to download the Revit here, and I thought it was gonna work this morning because I couldn't do it over the week, and I keep getting a installation incomplete. There was a problem downloading the software. I had 2022 on my computer, but I uninstalled that to download the 2020, but the 2020 is not working. So I'm in the same boat as the other guys.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. And this is Luis. That's Luis in LA, in Las Vegas, right?
Yes, ma'am. In Vegas.
In Vegas. Okay. All right. Yeah, let me get back to y'all and see what we can do to get that fixed and taken care of. Like I said, the good news is that this is first half of the project. Yeah, yeah. Let's don't worry is what I'm trying to get to. Is that we still have time to get you caught up and get all your work done. So I'll
Thank
definitely
you.
work with everybody, so don't worry about that. All right, so let's start a new project. So new, and this is what it's supposed to look like, new project. And then we go to an architectural template and hit OK. It's one of the caveats of having long distance classes. I mean, it's good for, being able to work, kind of show you things close up. A lot of people like this better in some ways because it makes it more flexible for you to attend class. But then when we don't have when the equipment doesn't work and the programs don't work, it gets frustrating and it doesn't help you. So there's pros and cons of each. I do have the classes recorded, so hopefully that'll help. And always happy to help y'all, catch up. So we will get y'all back on track. So don't worry about that. We'll get it figured out. Um, oh, that's an interesting thought. Trey, do you have any experience with this?
Yes, ma'am. So when I was installing Inventor and AutoCAD last semester, a lot of people were having the issues of getting the applications to run and install properly. And what
Mhm.
we discovered was that if you tried to run or install through the Autodesk desktop application, which automatically gets installed, what it's going to try to do is it's going to try to auto update any applications that you install. So if it's a 2020 version, it's going to force or try to push out the 2022 update. So once you initially install the programs, like the 2020 version of Revit or AutoCAD or any other Autodesk product, look for the actual application launcher that will either be in your start menu, your programs folder, or on your desktop, and launch those applications from that shortcut or from that launcher or .exe file. Do not use the Autodesk desktop app because that caused a lot of issues for everyone.
Okay, that was super helpful. People that are having issues with getting Revit loaded, can you follow Trey's instructions on that? And if you need help, Trey, would you mind if they reached out to you directly? Because
Sure, it's not a problem.
that would be wonderful. Yeah, if anybody's having any issues, try and follow Trey's directions and see if that helps. And then get back to me and let me know. But I hadn't heard that. So thank you for sharing that, Trey.
It looks like it's working. I appreciate it, Trey. I went on the start and I wrote Revit on the search bar and it gave me install Revit 2020. I click on that and it looks like it's now installing. So we'll see, but I appreciate it.
Awesome, not a problem.
That's
Glad to help.
fantastic. Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Trey. I think there's a couple other people, so if y'all could try that as well and then let me know what happens. Hopefully that will solve our issue. So yeah, that was very helpful. Thank you. Awesome. It's always great. That's why what I miss about actually being live in class, because you miss this interaction between fellow students. Like sometimes somebody will just get something and it's easier to work with another student to like figure out what you're doing while I'm working with somebody else or things like that. So one of the drawbacks. So I do appreciate any kind of information thrown out there to kind of help other students. So feel free to do that in future as well. So all right, let's jump into today's lesson. We're gonna just do a quick review about walls. Let's talk about walls a little bit more. Obviously, they're very involved. Let's jump to, okay, so notice I opened up a brand new project this time. So now when I go to my wall tool and I do my type selector, the wall that I created last time is not here. So any walls that you create are very project specific. So I'd have to create a new wall. Let me just do that one more time, just as a review for y'all. So remember, we always want to start with a generic 8-inch. We'll jump into edit type, always duplicate and rename. Let's do wall interior 4.5 inches for my initials. And okay, jump into edit. Remember here, we have to add those additional materials. So we're going to go down and hit insert twice. Remember, the only thing between the core boundary is structural material. So this finish layer, I'm going to move up outside the core boundary. I'm going to move this one down outside the core boundary. Notice total thickness is at 8 inches. So we need to change the thickness of the wall. We'll change this to 1/2 inch. It's a 4.5 inch wall, so 3.5 inch 2x4, 3.5 inches, and 1/2 inch jip on the. Oops. Now we have a total thickness of a 4.5 inch wall. So for the finish layers on either side of those, since this is an interior wall, we're going to use the interior finish layer of 2. This is structural material. We're going to open up the materials browser. We don't have hardwood lumber, but they give us softwood lumber. So we'll go ahead and do that. One thing I forgot to do, because I clicked real fast, is change this to use render appearance. And the reason I do that is these 2 tabs correspond with our visual styles down here. So in the appearance tab, that gives me what this will look like in realistic view. And in the graphics tab, this gives me what the image will look like in consistent color and shaded. So if you don't check this, everything's going to go to gray. And when the entire image is gray, as you learn, it gets a little bit confusing. So we always want to make sure that this is use render appearance. So in consistent color, we can have the walls colored in the same material as the realistic view. So we're going to jump to finish layers, and both of those are gypboard. Now with the gypsum wall board, they are both gray, even for the use render appearance, but we will learn to add paint to those later. And now we can start drawing our walls out. So the big thing to remember here is when you have your temporary dimensions, that's going to help you set your final dimensions for your room size. I have a little bit more complicated drawing here with this L shape. So if I want to make sure that these measurements are in the correct place, whoops. Remember, we want to click on this node to make sure that dimensions are coming from the space that we want them to. So if we have our interior wall to our interior wall, we can set that to 20 feet. And that will move up. And then if we use this wall and wanted to move it this way, we click on this one. So interior wall to interior wall, and let's set that to 16 feet. And that will move that wall this way. So the wall you select is the wall that's going to move. And now if we don't want that to move again, remember we click on the symbol, we click on the dimension itself, and then we can lock that into place. So these temporary dimensions, once they're done, we can go ahead and delete them. The dimension is gone, but the lock is still in place. And from here, we can add our windows and doors. Now notice one of the important things to notice is I didn't leave any gaps for windows or doors or anything like that. And yeah, I just created an exterior wall with my interior wall, but I'm just kind of doing this as an example. Say I wanted to continue this wall over here, I can just drag that to this point. Now I've created another space. So let's drop in a few windows and doors. So to drop in some windows, we'll go to Architecture tab, Build Panel Window Tool. And same information here in our properties. We'll go to our type selector and we can do a drop down here. These are all the windows that are already added into our project. So they're already loaded in, so you have access to these windows. Let's just do a couple of windows really quickly. Let's do something big. Let's do this one right here, 57 by 72. So I'm going to click on that one. And if we look at our properties, notice there's some defaults in here. So we have a default sill height of 3 feet. So this is going to be 3 foot from the floor to the inside of the sill. And then we have some other information here. And then the top height is 9 foot. So let's notice when I try and drop this window in, I've got like this little sign symbol that says I can't do anything. And notice the only time I can drop in a window anywhere is if I have it inside of a wall. So it's nice. You can't just drop a window anywhere like right here, which would look weird and mess up your model. You will always have a wall and a window associated, and doors will come in the same way. So notice as I'm dragging along here, I've got my temporary dimensions moving in there as well. Kind of gives us an idea of how close we need to get this. So I can drop one here, and I'll drop one here. But if I need to get those exactly where I need them to be, notice how if I stop the program and go back to it and try and move this, my temporary dimensions are gone. So that means that when you're actually dropping these windows, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to the temporary dimensions as you bring them in. So we'll drop that here. Now we'll move our temporary dimensions. We want to make sure that this is set from our interior wall to the opening of the window, because that's how we drew it. And now we can change our temporary dimension, say to 3 foot. If we want to lock that in place, we'll lock that in place with this temporary dimension here. So we can click on that. And notice sometimes this is not giving us a lock. A lot of times that'll happen. Let's move on to the next one. And we'll place that window. Let's see what we can do. Here we'll change our temporary dimensions as well from our interior wall to the window opening. Set that to 3 feet also. Click on our temporary dimension. We have those set. So we're not locking those in place, but we do have them set. So let's delete these temporary dimensions. And the same as for doors as well. So let's go to Architecture tab, Build Panel Door Tool. When we go to our properties, we'll see what's in already loaded into our model. We only have a single flush door in these dimensions that are loaded in here. So let's just drop one. And then notice we have the same symbol. When I get over here to my wall, here I can place my door. So click on my door. If this is door facing the wrong way, notice I have these same toggles that I can flip the door around. So I want this actually to face this way, and I want the swing to go the other way. I accidentally dropped another door. Oh no, there it is. So doors, when we place them, we can get our temporary dimensions back. And here, typically, it's a 6-inch spacing between the wall and the door opening, so we can place that there. We'll just change that to 6 inches. Oops, I meant 6 feet. Oops. 6 inches. I've got my door in place. But obviously, it's a little limiting if we only use the ones that are preloaded into Revit, into our current Revit model. So Revit does have a materials and have more options to load more components. So let's go back to doors themselves. Here, if we want to load different doors, we can go over here to load family. We'll be using this a lot as we use different components throughout our project. That way, when we go to load a family, it has a ton of more interesting stuff on here. You should have something that looks like this. That has all these different categories in it, so we can kind of load new stuff. So right now we're doing doors. Find our doors category right here. Here is a ton of different doors that we can now use. Now things start to get more fun where you have these different options and things like that. So if we just click on it once, you'll get a symbol over here to show you what it looks like. We also have categories for commercial and residential doors, so they work a little bit differently. So if you click on this one, it will open this one up. This is a garage door. So there's a ton of stuff in here, and I definitely recommend to get in here and kind of play with it a little bit and see what you can find. So let's use one of these interesting doors. Let's click on that one and double click. And here, instead of selecting the measurement over here, you're going to select the measurement here of what size you want. So 12 by 80, etc. So you can scroll down here and see we have a ton more sizes as well that we can use. So let's do 36 by 80. Here, notice it did find the center part, so it is centered. I still want to have those measurements to the center wall. And for Windows, we can do the same thing. We'll go to Windows, load family. Go down to Windows. And here we have a ton of different windows that we can play with. And the same thing when we bring that in. And when you bring in the windows, you want to make sure these toggles are on the outside as well, because if they're on the inside, then your window is inside out. So we just threw that together really quickly. And let's jump to 3D and see what we created. Take a spin on the cube. Doesn't look like much. Let's change to consistent color. So we're starting to get a little bit of interest there. So notice one of the things I did want to do this to show you the difference between that is this is another way that you can catch to see if your windows or doors are backwards. Notice these two windows don't match. So that should be something that catches your attention and you'd be like, what's going on with that? I can't fix the windows from this view. I would need to jump back to level 1 to correct those. So now when I go back to level 1, I can see, okay, this window is in the right direction. This window is in the wrong direction. And I can just flip those toggles and flip them back. So now when I jump back to 3D, everything's looking more appropriate. If I click on this window here, and I take a look at the properties now, it's going to give me up the same information as before, but here I can change it a little bit. We can start editing it. Say if for some reason this window was actually placed at 4 feet instead of a 3 feet height, I can change that to 4 foot. And notice it just moved that one window at that one time. It didn't move both of them. But if I wanted to move this one as well, I can go ahead and click that one and change that to 4 feet also. And now you've changed the sill height of your windows. If I wanted to do them both at the same time, and click one, hold the control key down, select the other one, and then we'll put those back to, let me make that 2 feet this time. So there's ways that you can adjust the height on these as well. So windows and doors are pretty easy. The main thing to remember is that they need to be embedded in a wall as you create them. So if you left gaps in your walls, a lot of people tend to do that. Let me jump back to level 1. Sometimes people leave a gap for where that door is going to go. If you do have that and you left that and you try and drop a wall or a door in there, notice that door is not going to fit in that space for you. So in order to correct that, what you can do is just go to that wall where you left that gap and just close it. And that'll just seal that right up, and then you can go back and you can drop that door in place. Not a great location for a door. I'm just doing that as an example for y'all. Any questions about doors and windows? There's more ways that we can go in. Sorry, there's more ways.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what if you have a doorway but no door?
Oh, great. Yeah, Revit has a solution for that. There's a couple of different ways that we can do that. So if you have just a door opening, we can go to door. We can go to load family. And, oh, I'm still in Windows. Oops. I don't know why it doesn't default back. Door opening. So this one defaults to 36 by 84, but for your door opening, we have other options here as well. So you can just drop that in. Oops, let's pick one. So now we have a door opening. We are going to talk about other ways that we can create door openings and walkways. Say if you have a large arched wall and things like that. We're going to talk about that a little later, not in today's class. I just want to get you the basics down. So for instance, if I had a large arched opening here, for this wall. There's a way that I can edit this wall and create that as well. We haven't gotten to that yet. So if you have a large opening where it's only a partial wall, just leave it as a full wall for now, and we'll talk about how to create openings in another class. But if it's just a small door opening, you can just use that door opening. So there's a few different ways we can do it. This is the way that is just, typical if it's just an open walkway. And then there's another way that we can do that. We'll learn that later on. Any other questions, y'all? Okay, so we hit on everything except creating materials, and I want to take a little bit longer on that today because it is something that you'll be using a lot. Well, also doors, windows, and walls, but creating materials is kind of fun, and I just want to make sure that you feel comfortable with that before we move on, because it is really the best way to personalize and customize your model as we create it. So what does that mean, creating materials? So let's go to our Manage tab, and then to our settings panel. And right here on the left, far left, is our materials tool. So we'll click on our materials tool, and notice it brings us back up to the material browser. Well, here's where obviously all our materials are kept, but we only have a certain ones that are preloaded into our Revit model. And they're pretty limited. So we want to add some new materials in here and create those. And how we do that is we come down to this bottom part down here, and notice this little orb. It says creates and duplicates materials. So here's where we start. So at the little orb, we want to click on that, and we always want to go to create new material. Always create new. That's going to add a new material up here, and we're going to right click and we're going to rename it. And let's say we're going to make actually I'm going to put my initials here first, just because everything I create will be under my initials. I'll be able to find that easier. And then I'm going to do siding. Now I want to add assets to it. So here we're going to open the asset browser. And here's where all the fun stuff is in Revit. A ton of stuff that we can make out of different new materials and things like that. And as you kind of go through it, you can see, all the stuff that's involved in here. Every year they add more stuff. But just kind of scroll through here and you can see, and kind of you're just going to get in here and kind of play with it and see what they have available for you to create. Basically break down these guys right here are walls, obviously, so this would be like a wall covering. Here are these cubes, these are our floor coverings and different wood types. We have different, these are just different materials you can use, different shapes, colors. Here's our metals. Sometimes they want to use metals. There's glass, different types of glass. Here's other glass. So there's just a ton of stuff to kind of work and play with. So we're going to create a new siding, and you can search for different things right here, but honestly, one of their search bars you don't get the best results from search. So I just like to scroll through and find what I'm looking for. So here we have some siding here. We've got horizontal grays and beiges. If you wanted someone, even though it's not as a wall material, I can still use this as my siding. So I'm just going to pick this beige. Notice it does have a lock here. The lock doesn't mean you can't use it. The lock means you can't change the parameters of this material. So we can either click on this symbol right here with the two arrows to populate it, or we can just double click and that will populate that into our material. This is what it's going to look like in render appearance. Let's go to graphics tab. Let's make sure we have use render appearance in graphics tab. It changes it to that beige, and let's go ahead and click OK. Now we have that new material loaded. So a couple of different interesting things I can do with that is if I just wanted to change this exterior wall and make this have siding, I'll go ahead and click on that wall. I'm going to go into edit type. I'm going to go into edit again. And now if I just wanted to change that.
I'm sorry. When you selected the horizontal 6-inch beige, what did you click on to?
I just double clicked it, or you can click those two little arrows on the bottom, but you can just double click it. Did that work? Yeah, if you just double click the material, it'll populate as well. So if I just wanted to change this wall right here, this exterior side of this wall, I go into edit type, edit again, and then I'm just going to pick that exterior side. I'm going to change this from chipboard to the material I just created. I put everything under my initials, so I'll be able to find everything there. So there's my, I'll double click on that. Yeah, just wanted to make sure I had user under appearance on there. Hit OK. I'll hit OK. OK, I'll jump out of that. And notice it changed all of them at the same time. And this is going to get a little frustrating if you want to change just one wall or another wall. Technically, it just changed the exterior wall of all of these. Because in order to change this wall over here, if it was just going to be one wall, we'd have to create a brand new wall type. So it gets a little bit confusing. And also, if you created a material and if you didn't duplicate and rename it, then it could get a little confusing as well. But there's just, yeah, it's just one of those things that's just practice and you kind of get to play with it. But the cool thing is I don't have to like redo the entire project. I can just create a new wall material and then it changes the whole thing at one time. So if I just wanted to create this wall, I would actually have to delete it and just create a new wall type, and then I could do it like that. There's many different ways that we can do stuff in Revit. So I'm trying to kind of give you the errors that you can make at the same time that we do the how to do it the proper way. So hopefully it helps. So let's do a couple more materials. Say like we wanted to create some brick material for walls that we're going to create later on. We'll go back into materials. The only brick that they have available here are two different types of brick. Say I wanted to have a different type of brick. So I'll go back here. And remember, always create new, because if you duplicate, it could cause issues down the road. I'm going to rename this one. Continue my same naming terms. Use my initials. Brick 2. So I'm going to use a different type of brick. Let's try and search for brick here and see what happens. So it just gives us these few limited selections in here, and it doesn't give you great options. It's populating now. And I know just from kind of scrolling through this stuff that they do have better options for brick, which is why I really don't say to use the search engine, because there's so many different categories that you can choose from, and it's just not laid out. So if I just click masonry instead of brick, I already have a ton more options to choose from that are more in line with what I'm looking for. So I'm actually just going to pick this brick right here. So that's why I suggest just scrolling through everything as opposed to like just searching for stuff here. I don't know why they have an odd search engine here. It just doesn't seem to work that well. So I'm going to double click on here. Remember, you can double click on the material, or you can click on these double arrows here. And as we linger over there, it says replaces the current asset with this new asset, but you can just double click on it. And let's close that out. This is what it's going to look like in render appearance. Make sure I have use render appearance as well. Hit OK. Now, since I have that new material created, if I go back to my architecture tab, go back to my wall tool, I'm going to go back to level 1. Now, when I go to create a new wall off of my generic 8-inch, edit type, I'm going to duplicate this and rename it, and let's do I'm just putting in some random information there to just create that wall. I hit OK. I'm going to edit. Since I've just made this a 3-inch brick, I just call it 3-inch bricks. I just want one run of like brick there. I'm going to leave this as a structural brick. I'm going to change the thickness to 3 inches. And I'm going to go into my materials and find that one that I just created. And now I have that brick. I'll hit OK, OK. And now if I wanted to like use that as a fence or anything, a 3-inch thick fence would not work really well, obviously, or a wall. Remember, this is just an example. So if I just wanted to create something like that there, let's run that there. Let's jump to 3D. Let's change this to realistic. See how that changes stuff up. So now we see I've got our siding on here. We've got our brick wall here. Say if I wanted to change that to just 4 foot. And we're starting to see how things can start looking a little bit better. Just throwing that stuff together. So what I would suggest to do between now and Monday is to create your walls, get your doors and windows imported. If you have a door opening, use the door opening. If you have a larger opening for your wall, we'll do that next class, how to create openings. So just make sure that there's a full wall in place for that. We'll talk about that next week. Create materials for your walls. And as we continue on, we'll learn how to customize everything a little bit more. But now we're still kind of playing with it, making sure that we're getting the basics down so you can feel comfortable with it later on as we move into more advanced stuff. Any questions about what we went over today, y'all? Okay, if not, let me know. Remember, you can shoot me a text if you've got any questions. Those of you that are still having issues with Revit, please try Trey's trick and make sure that that works. If that doesn't work, shoot me a text, and as soon as I hear back from Miss A or the campus, I'll get back to you and let you know what they said, and hopefully we can get everything worked out for you. So that's it for today's lecture, unless there's any questions.
Just a quick comment, Michelle.
Yes.
I still have the error of downloading. I don't know. It's 7.5 megabytes or gigabytes in it. When it gets to 6 or something, it just trashes on me. I'm gonna try to install it on my desktop.
Try to install your desktop and let me know what works, if that works. And then shoot me a screen. Get a screenshot of the error message so I can know exactly what it says.
Okay, perfect. And can you
You
send
probably-
me your email?
Go
Trey
ahead,
or number? Yeah.
What I was going to say was you probably, when you uninstalled it originally, you probably needed to go into your file explorer and actually delete all the folders or residual files that are usually left over from uninstalling programs, because that might be what causing the issues that you're having for installing it.
Perfect. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So I'll do that. And I've never had the Revit in my desktop computer. It's just that I won't be able to work while I'm traveling. Because that put me behind. But it's okay. I'll go ahead and do my laptop then and try to uninstall everything. Maybe I forgot something in there, and I'll just try again. And if I get any good results, I'll let you know, Ms. Michelle.
Yeah,
Thank you, Trey.
Yeah,
Yeah, no
I have had a different issue, able to fully download, but anytime I try to launch it or run it as an administrator, I get a revitworker.exe not found. It just tells me to uninstall and reinstall. I've gone through like all of the troubleshooting, including like clean uninstall, like you were talking about, like get all the files and residuals out and then reinstall, and it's still giving me that error.
send me a screenshot of that too, and yeah, that's
might be a driver issue. Is your motherboard drivers up to date? Video card drivers, if you have one, etc.
I can look for it. I just have updated all my windows, but for that,
yeah, you've got a doozy of a problem there. So hopefully we can get something worked out for you, and waiting to hear back on that, Brad. So yeah, I'll get back to you as soon as I get an answer. So any other questions, y'all? Okay, we'll go ahead and drop. I'll get the recording posted later today, and you know, reach out to me if you're still having issues with Revit, and I'll get back to you with those answers soon. All right, take care.
Goodbye. Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. Thank
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.